going deeper into understanding what the future holds for all of us, what are the new workspaces of the future, and which industries are going to thrive in the future. I'm thrilled to have with me Hrishikesh Kannan, popularly known as Rishi K, producer and presenter on Radio 1, India's flagship daily morning show, a voice that everyone in Mumbai at least recognizes. He's also brand head for the Radio 1 network and manages and oversees content creation and execution. He's also winner of the prestigious RAPA Award for Best Radio Jockey and Best Radio Program. He's won this award several times. Also a sports commentator of repute, having commented on the Hindi feed of the ICC T20 Cricket World Cup, IPL for Sony Max, as well as the French Open tennis for New Sports. So we're going to dig into a little bit of future of sports with him as well. He's also been a master of ceremonies at some of the country's largest events. And his latest passion is podcasting. He runs a podcast called the Hrishikesh Sessions by Kannan. So we're going to dig into a little bit on podcasting as well. I'm delighted to have with us Hrishikesh Kannan, a voice that's very familiar to all of us. And today, Hrishikesh, I get to ask the questions and you get to answer. So I'm excited about this opportunity.
Thank you, Vibha, for having me on. And this sounds like so much fun. And thank you for the wonderful, vibrant introduction.
Terrific. Thank you. So on that note, so as I've been researching this book, I've been talking to experts from various fields, from literature to Godrej Industries, a whole range of people. And the first question I always like to ask everyone is, why have this conversation? Why would we talk about the future? So from where you sit, from your vantage point, why is it important to even think about the future?
Well, much as the seers and the spiritual gurus tell us to live in the present and say that the past and the future have little or no importance, unfortunately, human civilization is geared towards what is going to happen in the future. Senior citizens are constantly thinking of how their future will be. Will it be lonely? Will it be comfortable? Will it be, healthy? Kids in college are thinking of their first job and how their future will be. People who are already established in their professions are thinking, are they going to make the CEO level? The CEOs are thinking, are they going to make it to the board? So largely, as a human species, I think we're fairly obsessive and obsessed about the future. So I think it's totally relevant because a lot of our fears and our happiness are not tied into the present, but in the future. And I'm sure at some point of time, human civilization will evolve and it'll be all about present moment awareness. But we're a far cry from reaching that level right now.
Okay, so despite what the pundits and the gurus tell us about living in the now, we're all trying to figure out what's coming and try to sort of equip ourselves for what the future is going to hold and be ready for what's coming. Okay, great. Thank you for setting the context of this conversation. I think it is a very valid point. We really do need to keep our eyes on the future and sort of plan forward. Now, as we plan forward, again, from your vantage point of being in the media, radio, in this broad space, what are some of the factors that you're seeing influence your sector? People have spoken about technology, sustainability, DEI, globalization. What are some of these trends you're seeing and picking up on, and how are they going to impact your industry?
Artificial intelligence will definitely invade the voice space. As early as 2022, two boys walked into my office. They'd sought an appointment and they said, listen, we've got a cool tool. We just want to play it back for you. One of them was from IIT Kharagpur. The other, if I'm not mistaken, IIT Bombay. And they said, give us a voice sample. I gave them a voice sample. They just opened a MacBook, recorded a voice sample, and they ran it through a program which replicated my voice. And they said, okay, type a few lines. And I just opened a Word document and typed a few lines. And they just copy pasted it into that particular program. And in my voice, my script or the lines that I scribbled out were being read out to me.
Wow. Okay.
So artificial intelligence will be in a position to not only take Vibha's voice, Hrishikesh's voice, Mr. Amitabh Bachchan's voice, or Al Pacino's voice, and be able to create that for long durations of time. And by durations, I mean extensive scripts. Are we going to be losers in the bargain? I don't think so. Because royalties will kick in, especially for celebrity voices. For example, if Mr. Bachchan is a celebrity voice, somebody who wishes to use his his voice texture via artificial intelligence. We'll have to go to him and say, I'm going to use your voice to record a book. Could be Chetan Bhagat's whatever, latest novel. Could be Robin Sharma's latest novel, or it could be a series of commercials, 30 commercials, 40 commercials in your voice. Once that approval comes in, and once he gives his voice sample, he gets paid a royalty like any voice artist would get paid. Whether it's per page, or whether it's per hour of recording, or per commercial of recording.
Yeah. Okay.
So he's not actually doing the work. He's probably sitting in his bungalow in Jalsa, and he's not making it to the recording studio to record that entire book.
Sure.
Which means perhaps he doesn't get paid as much as he would do if he physically went to the studio. I don't think it's a bad idea at all, Vibha, when you're sitting in your veranda and, having some downtime and kicking back, for the check to be in the mail, because your voice is splendid enough to be recreated by artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Likewise for beautiful people, likewise for handsome men, likewise for interesting characters. I see that because, like you said, I can only speak through my lens, which is the lens of the media and primarily a voice work that I'm involved with. And this is the future.
Okay. So, this sounds quite fabulous. Replicate his voice. He can be sitting in his veranda, probably get paid royalties even long after he's gone, which will benefit the family because it's sort of this voice that he's lent out. What are the downsides of this happening, in the space of AI? Because, paying out royalties, ensuring that these copyrights are in place, the patenting, etc. None of these regulations are enforced today. So how are you seeing this pan out from a legal perspective? Do you really think people are going to actually end up paying these royalties? Where do you see this trend really moving?
On the contrary, the royalty system is very, very clearly established with the Association of Voice Artists. I belong to AVA, the Association of Voice Artists.
Okay.
So if I do Super Rin ki chamkar zyada safed, kisi bhi अन्य detergent टिकिया से ज़्यादा सफेद, and I get paid 10,000 rupees for it, but they want only Super Rin ki chamkar zyada safed without the kisi bhi अन्य detergent टिकिया से whatever, and they stick that on to a 15-second or a 10-second edit. I get paid 50% of the master. So when you sign on as a brand voice to Rin, for example, or any product, they say, okay, we're going to draw up the contract. Can we use your voice for 1 year, 5 years, or posterity? You choose the term period. It's actually quite simple. It doesn't even need a lawyer. The second thing they ask you is...
But do they have this in place for AI-generated voices already?
No, I'm sure. It is not as yet, but it's the same thing. It's actually the same thing if you look at it.
Okay, so you're saying spanner in the works, details can be worked out? And
Yeah. So, and literally, then I say, okay, fine. How many commercials are you doing? So they go, we will record 2 60-seconders with you, but from that, we will make 2 10-seconders where we don't need the entire voice. For example, they might just want, if it's a Pepsi commercial, Pepsi contains no fruit juice and pulp contains added flavor, the third one. But I've done the master one, which is a longer one, and they cut from that. So I don't have to go back and do that third commercial.
Sure.
But however, they're using my voice and slapping it on the third commercial. So I will get paid 2 full commercials, and if they slapped it onto a third without me giving my voice, I get 50% for that.
Okay, sure. So
I'm saying it's very simple.
You're saying it's very simple. Okay.
The powers that be would turn around and say, if you were actually voicing it yourself, it's $100. But if you're taking your voice and getting AI to replicate it, it's $50.
Okay, so you're saying it's pretty straightforward.
It's very straightforward. It exists everywhere.
You're not worried about pilferage. You're not worried about sort of the deep fake voice coming through.
Yeah. So all those days of, music companies replicating songs and making a killing out of replicating those songs and piracy and all that is, I'm sure the odd one just does pop up, but there's lots of stringent laws against it.
Okay.
Very rarely will you find in the metro cities, for example, somebody walking into a movie house or movie theater and just recording the video of a movie and releasing it. You know what I mean?
That piracy was very
so that just like that, as far as audio piracy is concerned, there are just lots of smooth laws. The Artists Association is very active.
And you're saying they'll be able to easily replicate this in the future,
easy.
and that it shouldn't be a much.
So easy.
Okay, cool. So you are seeing this as a trend coming up.
Yeah.
AI will replicate your voice. You probably won't have to sit in a studio recording shows all day. You sign off on a script, someone else will use your voice and make your life very easy. Okay, cool. That's a pretty radical change. Now,
Yeah.
with this sort of radical change coming through, probably decrease the cost of a voice because you're not
True.
physically going
You
through.
don't get paid 100, you get paid 50
You get
rupees as
paid
an
50,
artist.
but then there's also volume at play because now you could be sitting anywhere and they can duplicate your voice so many ways. So how do you see this changing radio? What's going to happen to the radio? Is the radio, we've known about radio being dead for so many years, but the radio is not entirely dead. So where are you seeing radio and its evolution and its place in the media and in entertainment?
So we started talking about voiceovers.
Hmm.
I don't necessarily see radio with the same lens. For example, we've launched 2 AI shows on my radio station, on my radio network at 94.3 Radio 1. One is a show called AI Den. Den is an artificial intelligence rapper, and he does a show along with an artificial intelligence lady host, and they give us the weekly news.
Wow.
So the artificial intelligence lady voice comes on and says, hey, this week, do you know that India won 4-1 against England? It's amazing. Ravichandran Ashwin finished his 100th test and he even took 5 wickets in it. AI Dan, what do you got to say about that? And she goes over to him and he goes, Ravichandran Ashwin hit 100 in the 5th test against India. And he raps a 2-minute rap.
Wow.
And she goes on to the next bit of news and says, looks like Donald Trump is going to fight the election against Joe Biden. And he's won the primaries. So is that going to be back to Trump? What do you feel, Dan? And he goes into a rap of Trump is no good, Biden's too old, whatever.
Sure.
So we have a program. Out of the thousands of AI voices they threw at us, the female voice we chose for the radio host, we kept her Indian English, and the rapper again we kept Indian English. And then there's another program which is a music artificial intelligence program, and they cost $80 a year, Vibha.
Sure.
And they're only going to get cheaper.
Sure.
And we feed the theme, and it comes up with lyrics. We have to doctor the lyrics a little bit, and then you put it through the program. The rapper sings it out for you, and again you choose the rapper's voice. So that's great, but I don't approve of it happening 24 hours a day.
Sure.
So I need human connect. You are going to ask me, and I'm unfortunately going to say yes. When you say those 2 hours, would you have had one radio presenter who lost his job or her job? Those 2 hours, would you have 2 radio presenters doing a 1-hour session each who perhaps lost their jobs? I would say yes. But if you're telling me I'm going to replicate it all through the week, I will not. So I visualize a radio station having their primetime presenters as human. And primetime on radio is a lot different from television. Television primetime is evening, which is why KBC, Big Boss, the Saas Bahu soaps, they all come to you in the night time. KBC is Kaun Banega Crorepati. Whereas in radio, all the senior presenters, whether it's myself or Jeetu Raj or Malishka, we're all in the morning. And there's a reason for that.
People are driving to work and sort of commute.
No, you drive back also.
Okay.
But India is what I call a labor-intensive industry. If you were employed, your boss doesn't care whether you leave office at 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. But your boss will always care, and your HR department will always care that you clock in or punch in at 10 o'clock in the morning.
Sure.
So there is a dedicated workforce in all the major metro cities, sometimes upwards of 9 to 10 million listening to the radio in the morning from 9 to 10. It's called primetime radio because that 10 o'clock people are going to check in, punch into work, which is why it's called primetime radio, and even ad spots are the highest in that particular time bracket. In the evening, there is high listenership, but like I said, you might leave work at 6, I might leave at 7, Antoine, who's our mutual friend, might leave at 8.
Sure.
So you don't get that dedicated stream of return traffic.
Sure.
So as opposed to upwards of 10 million, maybe it'll be upwards of 5 or 6 million who are listening to you in the evening, not a dedicated listenership chunk.
Okay.
Because again, you might leave at 5 today, but you might leave at 6 tomorrow or 7. Because and really your employees don't care, do they, what time you leave, as long as your work keeps getting done. So I visualize my morning prime time and my evening prime time, definitely my morning and, you know, 90% my evening prime time being done by human beings.
Mm.
There's news to deliver, there's traffic to deliver, there's weather to deliver, there's what's happening now to deliver. I'm not saying artificial intelligence can't do all of that, but it just feels so warm and wonderful to have a human being at the other end of the line and
Mm.
not a robot telling you what the traffic is like, giving you, upping your upper for the day, great thought for the day, interviewing a celebrity or a business leader. So I would visualize that. But my non-prime time hours, late in the night,
Mm.
early afternoon, late afternoon, weekends where listenership is slightly weak, I would have AI presenters.
Okay, that's it. So, like, you talked about the two shows that you've already introduced. Are you foreseeing, a Her, the movie Her, where he falls in love with this AI voice? And I know a lot of radio jockeys have this sort of cult status, right? You guys have huge fan following. I know a lot of people who are big fans of these voices. Do you foresee in the future this artificially generated voice becoming sort of iconic and that becomes the identity of the station?
Well, yes, I mean, there's no doubt about it. They made a movie on somebody falling in love with Siri,
Correct,
which
Her,
is,
that the film Her, yeah.
that's right. And voices are like that. I mean, they have a deep allure and they have a mystery to them.
Mm.
Unfortunately, what's happened is the cameras have invaded human studios. So everybody knows what I look like.
Mm.
20 years ago, they didn't. So they would visualize, oh my God, this guy sounds like George Clooney. Does he look like
Mm.
George Clooney? Oh, he sounds like so and so. And now they see a overweight South Indian man on a mic and it's all downhill. So, so Vibha, back in the day, I could create a mystery and allow people to think that I was, this gorgeous, handsome hunk to go with my deep baritone, but I can't kid them anymore because
No,
there's
no,
Zoom camera.
you are a gorgeous, handsome hunk. That doesn't change. That's
It's very kind of you.
okay.
It's very
Okay.
kind of you. But yeah, the Zoom screens have invaded. Likewise, there are cameras in studio,
Okay.
whether it's Insta Live or Facebook Live, or because
Okay.
now managements want that touch and feel. Want, oh my God, if Deepika Padukone is in studio, she must also be seen along with my radio
Sure.
presenter. My
Okay.
radio presenter himself is a celebrity. He must be seen or she must be seen.
Hmm.
It'll add to fan following. Maybe we can throw in some logos of sponsors and make more money out of them,
Hmm.
as opposed to just this program is brought to you by as an audio advertisement. Throw in a logo on the top left or top right, and there's more value for money. So there is no doubt that the invasion of cameras has happened, but we have purposely chosen not to give an ID and a visual presence to Den, who's the rapper,
Hmm.
and Jen, who's the radio presenter,
Hmm.
because we want that mystery, that allure to stay. So I think, yeah, it's life comes full circle.
Hmm.
There is a possibility that people will get hooked on to her voice and his voice and fall in love with eventually.
Wow. Okay. All right. It sounds very exciting. But from what you were saying, it looks like the radio is here to stay. With all this advent of so much content hitting all of us, right? Like you're saying, there was a time where I would sleep to the radio. I remember when I was a kid, I would sleep to the radio. That was the voice. That was the last voice I would hear and go to bed. Now the last voice I hear is either my Instagram feed or whatever show I'm watching on Netflix, right? Unfortunately, the radio has moved out of my life in that nighttime slot. As you said, right, the nighttime slot is not your prime time anymore. What is the trend you're seeing going forward? All this sort of competing eyeballs for different media formats. Where is the space of radio in the next 5 or 10 years?
Well, I'm so glad you asked me that. I mean, it's a question that television gets asked a lot.
Hmm.
With the advent of OTT and streaming platforms, and people said, "Oh my God, theatricals will stop." Theatricals are running in a buzz. By that I mean, multiplexes and shows on the large screen. They tell me that Indian Idol has and Sare Gama, which are two of the big singing
Yeah.
reality shows on television, and Big Boss and Kaun Banega Crorepati have had their biggest years over the last few decades this year gone by. Maybe because more people have tuned in than ever before after the pandemic. Television will always run side by side and alongside OTT and likewise theatricals. Similarly, radio will always run side by side along with streaming platforms, who give you music service. And the way I liken it is just to public transport and private transport. If you, Vibha, decide to travel from Bandra to Borivali or Bandra to Nariman Point in your own car, you'll say, okay, fine, let me stop at Haji Ali, have a juice. Before that, stop at Worli, have a coffee. After that, maybe stop at Nepean Sea Road, meet a friend and say hi, give a tight hug to him or her.
Yeah.
Then stop and buy some books at a bookstore on the way, and then finally reach Nariman Point. But if you were to travel from Bandra to Nariman Point via public transport,
you go point A to point B. Okay.
You have no option on where to stop.
Sure.
If it's the train, you will stop, at Elphinstone or Parel or wherever, Grant Road, this, that. And likewise, if you take a bus, he has predetermined stops. But that doesn't mean people stop taking public transport.
Mm-hmm.
There will always be people taking public transport, whether it's the taxi or the train or radio cabs, which are massive. Gen Z doesn't believe in buying cars. They want to save the extra money and they want to just take holidays. They don't even want to buy property. They want to live in rentals. So I'm seeing more and more radio taxis. And radio to me and television to me is today public transport. And the streaming services and OTT to me is, private transport. They will always coexist. There will be phases when one will outscore the other. And post-pandemic, that happened. My friend Hormuz Surabji, who runs Autocar India magazine, actually gave me figures that after the pandemic, car sales went through the roof. Because people who were in motorcycles said, why don't I just take an extra loan and buy a car? Why should I suffer the pain of getting COVID? I should be in my own car. People who were taking the buses and trains said, come on, let's bite that bitter pill. Let's take a loan. Let's again start getting into our own private car. Okay. Private car purchase went up, more cars on the road. Any radio presenter who tells you, Vibha, I feel very sorry that you're stuck in traffic is a goddamn liar. We love that you're stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
We love that you're in pain for 3.5 hours because you're forced to listen to us. You're a captive audience.
Sure. Okay.
Sorry, I'm overdoing that. But anyway, the point I'm making is very, very simple. I just want to make one extra point. One extra point.
Yeah.
So there is no discounting that, the existence will be there. Post-pandemic listenership went through the roof. A lot more people listening in cars. Remember, if you want a premium subscription without ad-free jingles, Spotify, Savan, Ghana, Apple have a lot of advertisements. So you're going to have to pay, whereas we are always going to remain free. The vital thing about streaming services is you either get all talk, which is podcast, or you get all music, which is streaming. We do a combination of podcasts and music. So we talk for 5 minutes, we play you a song. We chat for 5 minutes more, we play you a song. So it's actually a nice hybrid model of podcasting, which is conversations and music. As opposed to pure talk and pure music. So that's the point I'm want to make.
Okay, cool. Okay, anyways, 1.4 billion people, looks like, everyone talks about many Indias living in one India. And you're saying there is definitely an India for the radio, and that's not going anywhere. Okay, great, cool. Since you touched upon podcasting and you have your own podcast on all these streaming platforms, why did you do the podcast? And what sort of uptake are you getting on podcasts? And do you really think this podcasting format as a format is here to stay in the next 5 or 10 years, or is it becoming too much content, too many people setting up their own podcasts and sort of getting redundant?
It'll be like the OTT boom. Everybody went to OTT. So much trash content, but so much great content too. And the siphoning will happen, and ultimately only the really good content creators, the really good podcasters with meaningful content shall remain. Why did I start podcasting? Very simple. What is podcasting? It is radio on the internet. And it's spoken radio, just like you have a lot of talk radio stations around the world. India doesn't have any of them other than All India Radio. A couple of guys tried, but they faltered. So to me, it was just a natural extension of what I was doing on the radio, except that it was on the internet as opposed to a physical device streaming that content. Two, I was able to share and do formats which I would not do on mainstream radio. For example, mainstream radio has a limited time because you're driving, your primetime show is 2 or 3 hours. You've got to fill in people on what's happening currently. You've got to give them, hey, what tech would you buy? What car would you buy? This is what's happening in the world of sports. This is where the Sensex is. This is what you can do in the world of mutual funds. And stick to the basics, which is fill them in if they've not opened the morning newspaper. But I'll give you a classic example. I do a podcast called Tana Bana by Asian Paints. And it's a 40 to 45 minute podcast where I talk about handlooms which have been inspired by art.
Wow. Okay.
And we've already done about 42 episodes.
Wow.
It's available on all streaming platforms.
So specific, huh? So specific.
So, for example, the handloom in Bihar has been influenced by Madhubani paintings. The handlooms in Maharashtra have been influenced by Warli artwork, Warli.
Yeah.
And we've spoken to artisans, we've spoken to loomers, guys who work looms, factory owners, and just try to go through the history of handloom. Now, that is unimaginable on the radio because mainstream radio in Hindi does Bollywood, mainstream radio in English does current affairs and entertainment, but this would go into the audio documentary category.
Okay.
So it gives me an opportunity to explore things like that. So formats that I would perhaps not explore on the radio. Some people get into it because, hey, they can be risque, and they can't be risque on radio because radio is governed by the very strict Prasar Bharati Ministry of Information Broadcasting laws. The internet is a little loose, but that's not my reason. Risque is not my style. I mean, even if you offered me to do something risque, I'd struggle with it.
Okay.
So there are different reasons why people get into podcasting. It is here. It will be here to stay. There are lots of people who want to consume only talk. I know young people who don't want to go through the laborious task of reading a book with the book in their hands or a pad in their hands, but they like going for a run and listening to Robin Sharma's Monk Who Sold His Ferrari.
Right.
So there's audio books, there's plays, there's thrillers, and of course there's music content to be sampled as far as audio is concerned.
Okay, great. All right. Thanks for sharing your views on your podcasting space. Let's talk a little bit about sports commentary. You do a lot of sports commentary. Do you foresee this sort of broadcasting, sports, this as a future career of the future, or do you think again AI, automated voice generators, etc., will come in and take over the space of sports commentary? Where do you think that's going?
Not so much sports commentary, because sports commentary itself is going through a huge turmoil. Not a turmoil, that's the wrong word to use, but an upshift. Now, if you looked at sports broadcasting 10 years or 15 years ago, the non-sports people, Harsha Bhogle, Charu Sharma, Dr. Narottam Puri, Raman Bhanot, myself, Gaurav Kapoor, there were a lot more non-sportsmen and pure broadcasters in sport.
Sure.
Gradually, that's changing.
Sure.
If you see broadcasting teams, for example, if you see Geo or Star Sports, there'll be one Mayanti Langar and the rest are all cricketers.
Sure, yes.
There'll be one Harsha and the rest are all cricketers. Cricketers themselves are so eloquent these days. Sports people are so eloquent. And even before they finish their primary career, which is performing on the pitch, they're already thinking of their backup career or their career post-retirement. And remember, in sport, you retire young. Roger Federer retired in his 30s.
Sure. Okay.
Which leaves your 40s free and your 50s free and your 60s free to do commentary work. And they're a lot more eloquent. They've done a lot more press conferences and interviews than their predecessors did. So they naturally take to the mic.
So now they take to the mic and they have the area expertise.
Exactly.
So you're saying there is a demand for area
they're
expertise.
also doing what the anchors do.
Sure.
They're also capable of doing what me or Mayanti Langer or Gaurav Kapoor or any of these guys do, because some of them are downright interesting and entertaining. And mind you, now there's also women's cricket. And some of the women cricketers are pretty glamorous.
Yeah.
Mithali Raj is an attractive lady. She's now started doing commentary. Isa Guha, who's an English...
Okay.
Indian
So you're
English
seeing that
cricketer.
as the trend.
So the trend is not artificial intelligence. The trend is more and more sports people turning commentators and less pure broadcasters like myself doing sport.
Okay, got
Because the sports guys will always have an upper hand. Sunil Gavaskar will always ask Harsha Bogle saying, I played 125 test matches. What about you?
Sure. Okay, cool. Okay, point noted. That's a very interesting point. I want to touch a little bit about live events. You do a lot of MC work. COVID happened, events stopped. COVID went away. There's a lot of live events going on. There's actually going on. All these concerts are coming in. People are paying 50,000 rupees, a lakh of rupees. Where do you think this is going to go? Is it going to keep yo-yoing the way we've seen it yo-yo? It comes and it goes, comes and it goes. Or do you where do you see this live event space moving to, and how do you think it's going to change again with technology and all these factors playing out?
It's gone nuts.
It's gone nuts.
It's almost as though people were sitting at home and they were so frustrated and in pain and not being able to venture out, that irrespective of what genre of show you do, you manage to find a full house.
Sure.
Take it from a man who's a very, very avid consumer of live entertainment. Also because we're official radio partners with most live events.
Sure, of course, yeah.
So you go to Mahindra Blues and you think, is it going to be a full house? How many people do you would listen to blues music?
And it's full.
And you have 2 stages at the Mehboob studio, and they're full. I'm talking about 3,000 to 5,000 people. That capacity is full up. You go to Mahindra iRock and you say, oh, Rock, how many people are going to show up? At the Bayview Lawns, we're talking 8 to 12,000 people. Then you go to Nostalgia Acts and you say, how many people are going to come and see the Backstreet Boys? And you realize there's so many people who grew up in the 90s who revere the band. And, they might be young parents, but they're still cool enough to shake a leg. A Backstreet Boys audience is full. And then you have Lollapalooza, where you have the greats like Sting and Keane coming in and Halsey. And you say it's a 2-day festival. How many footfalls am I going to get? They priced it pretty expensive. And you get full houses on both days.
Yeah.
Likewise for Ed Sheeran, because the concert got sold out, 3 months in advance. So the point I'm trying to make is, and EDM is a huge movement, mind you. Electronic dance music, all these DJs like David Guetta, all these DJs were coming in, Armin van Buuren. They get full houses wherever they go, and that's a whole different genre with kids who are just headbanging to electronic dance music.
I was at the Taylor Swift concert this weekend. She had 62,000 people in the stadium. And that was 8 shows, right? With Singapore government paying $3 million a show. It transformed Singapore. I haven't been to Singapore in 10 years. I probably won't go back unless there's another concert. But that amount of inflow into that economy is quite phenomenal. So it's back at its peak right now.
And now let me give you the other end of the spectrum, which is, Bollywood is Bollywood. It'll have a season whenever it surfaces. We do a program for the NCPA, the National Centre of the Performing Arts. Hindustani classical music recitals, not just necessarily with people like Ustad Zakir Hussain and Vikku Vinayakaram, but even mid-level vocalists of the Gwalior Gharana, or people doing Hindustani classical music. Even those auditoria are full.
Correct.
People are wanting to go out. It will settle down.
It's happening right now. Where do you see this moving to in 5 to 10 years, and how do you think it's going to change?
So everybody's gung-ho about events. People are saying, oh my God, every radio station, every TV company should have an events division. And I'm like, listen, man, it's a specialist art. These guys who are doing events are specializing in it. Yeah, maybe we can try and learn the ropes of the trade, tricks of the trade by partnering with them initially, and then you can think of starting an exhaustive events business. But everybody wants to get into it now. They think, oh my God, bums on seats mean money, and let's get into this robust ecosystem. But the experts will always hold sway. Artists are now charging exorbitant amounts. You ask a foreign artist, they say $1 million, $2 million, because they feel India can afford it. All of this will settle down. And again, what will truly work is quality content. Again, I cannot give you a genre because EDM will remain popular with the Gen Z.
Okay.
Rock music will remain popular with, the slightly older people. Stand-up comedy will remain popular with a lot of middle-aged office goers or young professionals. But ultimately, the number of shows might come down, the number of festivals might come down. But if you've got quality, you'll still have people come into your gigs.
Okay, all right. So you're saying live event space is here to stay. It's a matter of quality, and over time, the quality will sort of wield itself out. Okay, because there's a lot of immersive art going on, right? I don't know if you saw the immersive Van Gogh.
Yeah.
There's a lot of all this. There's no human beings. It's literally digital art. You walk into space. The cost of production might be high once, but it's a high fixed cost, and then you sort of use this fixed cost, spread it out also on the events. You're not paying the artist all these millions of dollars. So do you see live events and sort of experiences now becoming sort of more dominant in the next 5 or 10 years? Or do you think this human component is still going to exist?
The human component is still going to exist. I went for the Van Gogh show. It actually reminded me of going to various cities in India and soaking in the sound and light experience. Like we used to have relatives in Hyderabad who would take us to the Golconda Fort.
Yeah.
And there'll be, Mr. Amitabh Bachchan's voice narrating, portions of the fort's history. Likewise, you go to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands and they'd give you a sound and light show on the cellular jail there. And portions of the jail would light up and they would say, Savarkar was here or so-and-so was here.
Sure.
And I said, wow, this Van Gogh thing is just a modern replica of, except without going to that monument, you can go to a neutral venue and you can explore this immersive art. So I see a lot of that happening, yes. But, I mean, come on, you've just come back from a Taylor Swift concert. Would you buy a robot singing like that? No.
I went because my 10-year-old niece took me. I don't know if I would pay so much money just to go entertain myself.
Yeah, but Taylor's Taylor. And if your 10-year-old niece is a Swiftie, she'll make sure that her aunt or her mom or her grandmom will take her.
See, that's the thing, right? That's also a new trend. My first concert was a Michael Jackson concert when I was, I think, 15. And at 15, it seemed early. Our parents had that conversation with us. 80% of my class did not attend that concert. It was a big deal to go to a concert at 15. And now this 8, 9, 10-year-old audience is being taken to live events. So I think that's also a pretty dramatic demographic shift coming in audiences. Now that's pretty radical.
Well, I belong to your generation. I was 18 when the Michael Jackson concert happened.
Yeah.
I remember lining up outside J49, buying tickets and going.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're right, that was my first big one.
Yeah.
At age 18. But I took my 11-year-old to Lollapalooza. I took my 11-year-old to Mahindra iRock, and I am taking my 11 and my 5-year-old, my second one, to Ed Sheeran.
Okay.
I want to expose them to music as early as possible. I want to expose them to the arts. Maybe that's just because I grew up with the arts.
Sure. It's you and like 50,000 other people, right, going to this thing. So it's happening. I think it's a new trend.
And I do believe that you must take precautions because the speakers are very loud.
Yeah.
Kids can't get very close to them because of tender eardrums. All those good things you got to take care of.
Okay.
Make sure maybe they're not in the nosebleed section.
Yeah, for sure.
And get pushed around.
Okay. Looks like live events are here to stay. I want to touch a little bit about branding. Since you run a radio station, you're so familiar with branding, and so how are you seeing sort of brand positioning change? How are you seeing brand spends change? Instagram came and changed everything, right? Like there's suddenly like a whole new category where people were spending money. And sure, the wallet might increase, but also it's the share of wallet that has gone largely to a lot of these digital platforms now, from taking it away from traditional media. Where are you seeing this shift going in the next 5 or 10 years? As how much money are people going to pour into advertising, and what are the channels you're seeing as the dominant channels for advertising spend?
The biggest advantage that new media has is that it's able to give data and numbers to brands. If you ask traditional newsprint guys and radio guys and TV guys, oh, how many people did we reach out to? We have to come up with the last commissioned research. Whereas if you ask the YouTube guys, how many people did this interview or this
Yeah.
ad reach out to? They have hardcore numbers. So many million watched it, engagement. So where they score over traditional media is having the data and the numbers to convince the high value or any value clients.
Okay.
But therein is a problem. Therein
Mhm.
is a problem that brands are getting sucked into, oh, because it's numbers, it's authentic, so let me go and spend my millions there.
Sure.
A lot of money that is being spent on new media is seeing short term gain. Oh, wow, this video got 2 million views, and then people just forgot about it in 3 weeks' time. Whereas with traditional media, it's sustained, isn't it? We always advise people do a 6-week campaign.
Mhm.
Print guys will say, come on, man, you take a full page today, do a half page later, do a quarter page later, we'll do an article also. So I find that a lot of brands are unnecessarily splurging on new media because they're so excited that they will, they're getting bang for the buck in terms of, there is data to show at the end of the day. But that doesn't mean your brand is being reinforced in the long run. The questions you got to ask yourself is, what can I do that will make brand recall easier, not just in the short run, but in the long run? How can I become a legacy brand now that I know that my products and services are great? So I find a lot of brands spending meaninglessly, unnecessarily. But again, I guess these are lessons to be learned. New media is called new media because it's new. And all of a sudden, you'd rather spend that money on Instagram and YouTube
Yeah.
than you would on FM radio station or a print newspaper,
Yeah.
because everything's going digital.
Okay. All right. But they have the numbers and the metrics to back it up. So, okay. All right. Great. Thanks for sharing that perspective. Since we talked about, this influencer phenomenon, and you talked about Deepika Padukone and how you sort of interview these people. Where do you see this hierarchy evolve? That when we were younger, it was always Bollywood. It was Bollywood and cricket. And we taught it was common parlance in India that two religions, Bollywood and cricket. But in the last 5 years or so, you have seen this emergence of a very, very influential influencer class. Now, Modi recognizing them with these awards, etc. Where do you see this shift happening in the next 5 or 10 years? Do you see any new class emerging? And where do you see this hierarchy shifting between cricket, Bollywood, influencer? Like, where is this? And radio jockeys in the mix. Where do you see that settling?
So, just to let you know, like at the radio station, I have hired a special dedicated digital team.
Mm-hmm.
So, my content creators on the digital feed, we have about 2 million on Facebook, we have 1 million on YouTube, and we have a lakh on Instagram. And those are content creators, just Gen Z people. Kids who are 21, 22 who do dance videos for me. If there's an Ed Sheeran concert, they'll dance to an Ed song. If there's an Ed Sheeran concert, they'll do a vox pop, get on the streets, ask people name 3 Ed songs in 10 seconds. They will do covers where they'll be strumming the guitar and singing an Ed song.
Mm-hmm.
And the radio presenters are slightly older because on-air content, the radio content is kind of like a combination between what CNBC TV 18 does on the TV, which is interviewing a lot of business people and CEOs, and also doing entertainment, which is playing all these wonderful music artists and talking to them and things like that. And I realized when I took over as brand head that it's not necessary that all the people who listen to us on the radio are the same people who are going on our digital feed. In fact, it's not. There are younger, more robust, more vibrant, more energetic people on our digital feed. So why should I just replicate the same content I have on the radio, on the digital feeds? Of course, I mean, it's still got to be aspirational and English and things that Radio One stands for. But I'd rather there's a lot of jumping and dancing and singing and, fun stuff, younger Gen Z stuff on digital, because that's what research shows, that the average age of most consumers there is, 20 to 35. And it's okay if radio has more mature presenters. And we have shows on mental health and sexual health and business, apart from our entertainment programming. So content creators are content creators, irrespective of where they create content for. I hired them to create content for a radio station, the digital arm for a radio station. People are hiring content creators to create content for their web pages, whether they're an event management company.
Do you see
The
this
Lollapalooza
hierarchy
guys did that.
shifting? Do you see the influencer class emerging as a class at par with the Bollywood celebrities? Do you see the influencer class always staying up there but one notch below?
No,
Like,
Bollywood will always be number
Bollywood
one in
always
this country.
ruled? Yeah. Okay.
Bollywood will always be number one in this country. I mean, that hysteria is unmatched. But the point I'm trying to make is, with the advent of the internet, it's not just Bollywood and cricket. Other people have a chance.
At least they have a chance, yes.
So people are watching English Premier League football.
Sure.
We do these fan parties for Manchester United club members, fan club members, to watch key games. We'll tie it up with a pub and we'll invite people on the radio and say, Radio 1 presents, come and watch this derby game with us, have a drink, we'll get you an entry fee. Do some kind of pub crawl and pub promotion. We see it's massive. We've tried to do that with domestic sport. How people have latched on to kabaddi. So, I mean, could you imagine a future without cricket 20 years ago? I'm saying cricket will still be there always, but it's wonderful that we have a domestic football league in the ISL, and we have kabaddi, which is being taken seriously, and we have other alternate sport.
And now
where Indians are doing very well. The NBA guys are interested in building the game here.
Okay.
People are interested in what Neeraj Chopra has done in javelin.
Sure.
Kids want to take up swimming. So, that proliferation from just Bollywood to cricket, though they will remain number one, their market share will be eaten up a little bit, bit by bit, by these other content creators, influencers, as well as sport.
Okay, terrific. Okay, thank you for answering that. Let's touch a little bit on workspaces, right? We did talk about workspaces, and you work, like, I'm assuming, I've been to a radio station once. I was on one of these shows, and lots of young people. Everybody there looked like, they were 16, 18, 22. I felt like the average age around that office space must have been 23 years old. So you're constantly dealing with this Gen Z, millennial, sort of spanning that spectrum. How are you seeing workspaces change? What sort of demands is this next generation asking for? Where do you think it's going to go? Whenever I young people in 6 months, they say, I've hit my growth curve. Say, you hit your growth curve in 6 months, you've only just started here. So there's a very different mindset, it's a very different approach to learning and thinking. Where are you seeing this demographic shift move workspaces?
Yeah, I've realized that there's no point trying to get people to be like me. I mean, my latest job, this is my 13th year in Radio 1 English. Before this, we were Hindi. About 4 or 5 years in Radio 1 Hindi. Then let me just put it this way. Every radio station or job that I've been in, I've spent a minimum of 5 years.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yes, of course.
And if you ask our parents' generation, they'll say, my God, from inception, first job to retirement, maybe
50
2
years.
jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
1 job or 2 jobs.
Yeah.
I've reconciled to the fact that every kid that walks through the door who's Gen Z, 20-something that I'm trying to hire, I'd be foolish if I expected them to stay more than 2 or 3 years, tops, if I'm lucky. You're right. They want to move on fast. They want to make money fast. They want instant gratification. But however, they are willing to work hard. And what has also become really important for them, even if they're not economically privileged, even if they're economically underprivileged or pure middle class, mental health. Believe it or not, they're all talking about mental health.
Yes.
The number of young people who talk about mental health is crazy.
Openly, freely, yes.
Openly, freely. So they want to be happy.
Yes.
They want their job to give them quick gratification. So I can't keep them hanging on the sidelines and say, oh, keep watching. And in 6 months, I'll make you a radio presenter. Hell no. They want to be on the mic now. So I let them get on, make mistakes. And I take I be the fall guy for those mistakes. Because if I don't, then I'll lose them. There's no hang around and find out about content creation. It's like, go and make the content now. You'll fail 3 out of 5 times. But at least they're getting things done now. So I do feed their instant gratification.
Okay.
I tell them money-wise it's not that easy. So I hold back a bit. Do the best I can.
So where do you see this sort of shift taking the workspace in the future? Do you see a lot of these kids working gig economy? Do you see them work freelance, work from home? How is this going to shift the workspace as we know it?
We thought that after the pandemic, everybody's going to be about work from home, but no, the kids want to go out. They want to they want work culture. I love it when, like I said, I've got a bunch of about 5 young kids who are just content creators. They love coming to office and hanging out. They don't want to be at home within the confines of their 4 walls and just FaceTiming people. They want to come and give real hugs.
Okay.
And go out on the field and create content and meet celebrities and, meet musicians and things like that. So that whole myth of, everything's going to shift from WFH, work from home, is wrong.
Okay.
Young people want, even if it's going out and hanging in the coffee shops and working out of there, they want to get out.
Okay.
So that worry is just very unnecessary, because it is going to be, if at all, a hybrid culture.
Okay.
Maybe work from home once a week or twice a week tops, but I don't see them working from home forever.
Okay, so you're saying the workspace is here to stay, hugs are here to stay.
Yep.
They want to come into office, they want to be with real human beings.
Yep.
So you're not seeing that as a shift? Okay. But you're saying that the average lifespan of this employee has now drastically reduced?
Yeah, I can't expect them to work long hours. I mean, I'm just saying the average, if we're lucky, they'll change. They'll be with us for 2 or 3 years.
Okay, all right. Let's go to the last segment of this conversation, which is about skilling. In the media and entertainment space, there's a young person, 14 to 18-year-old, eyeing this media and entertainment space. What kind of skills would you recommend that this person go get? Should he go to college? What should he study at college? And how should he be skilling if he wants to enter your domain?
Yeah, so, the logical thing would be mass media courses. But unfortunately, with mass media courses, then not all of them are teaching them technical tools. For example, if there are content creators who I'm hiring, I'd like them to know how to use Canva. I'd like them to know how to use, Premiere Pro, which is just basic editing software. And if they come to work on the radio, I'd like them to know how to use Vegas or RCS, radio computing systems in Vegas. These are all radio softwares.
Okay.
I find a lot of mass media courses are indulging in lectures, teachers giving discussions, talking about, stuff which is in the books, but they're not giving them a technical know-how and how to work softwares. Whatever you do as a content creator, and by that I mean if you want to be a radio host who's creating content on the radio or on video, you will be dependent on tools, and those are softwares and hardware. And any school must teach you how to do that. They can't teach you talent. Talent is what you're born with. And then they can teach you a few essentials. I'm not saying all of classroom teaching is hullabaloo. Some of it is important because you go through the do's and don'ts and things like that. You must know the rules if you want to break them in the future. But I wish there were more editing classes. I wish there were more sound classes. I wish there were more technical stuff, which is changing. I went and saw Whispering Woods in Film City. They've got a lovely audio studio and video edit setups. I went to my alma mater, which is the Xaviers Institute of Communications, XIC. They've also built some editing suites. They used to have an audio studio always. So I think I would expect them to be trained on certain softwares and know certain hardware. If they're coming into the recording business or the content creation business, because you've got to do everything on the fly, right? You can't wait for an editor to come and sit and edit this and that, because you're talking a quick consumption of reels, 60 seconders, 90 seconders, things like that. Yeah.
Okay. So you're saying some amount of usage of software, hardware, and basically something you're saying be self-sufficient. You should be able to do a little bit of everything on your own. Okay. Last question, and then we close this. Are you generally optimistic about the future? Are you sitting here thinking, hey, you're just going to be great, bright, happy, things are going to move in the right direction? Or is there a doom scenario in your mind where you're like, hey, things, AI might come over, all these jobs will be gone? It very much could happen, right? So which way are you leaning? A gloom scenario, a doom scenario?
I feel the future's so bright, we got to wear shades.
Okay.
If you're talented, you are going to derive great quality from your work, money from your work, and like we said, there is no discounting the fact that your per project might take a hit courtesy artificial intelligence. But if you're genuinely talented and you have performing abilities, voice abilities, you earn through royalties, and you make up in terms of volume what you would lose out on a per project job, because you have more free time, so you go more meet more people, and allow them to use your voice.
Okay.
So I think it's a very bright future. We will harness the power of AI, make it work just for us, and humans will still be in control. There will be larger representation of men and women, humans, as opposed to AI. I don't even think it's going to be 50-50. I think we're still going to see a 70-30 to 60-40 kind of, more in favor of the humans, more humans in an organization than AI.
Okay, all right. Hrishikesh, ending this conversation on a very optimistic note. In his beautiful voice, thank you, Hrishikesh, for doing this. It was a pleasure to hear your voice, hear your thoughts on the sector, and I'm truly hoping that the world is as rosy as you imagine it to be. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Vibha. All right, wonderful. You picked the right questions. You asked them in the right manner. It is an absolute pleasure doing this chat with you. Thank you very
Coming
much.
from you, I take that as a huge compliment. Thank you so much. Thank you.